everybody and welcome to this video on inverted commas. Inverted commas are these little pieces of punctuation here and here, and we can also call them speech marks or quotation marks depending on how they are being used. So I'm just going to go through briefly how we would use them to indicate direct speech and also how we'd use them when we were quoting what people have said or quoting from a text if we're writing an essay. So we use them to indicate direct speech when we're writing, and generally in Great Britain we would use double inverted commas to show direct speech or dialogue in our writing. So this extract's taken from the Hunger Games, and you can see it's a conversation between Gail and Katniss, and their speech, what they are saying, is indicated by double inverted commas. So I think Katniss says, still warm. I say, he must have been at the bakery at the crack of dawn to trade for it. What did it cost you? Okay, so where she says, still warm, and what did it cost you, that is indicated by double inverted commas, and we would use those to indicate direct speech when we are writing. When we are quoting in the UK or Britain, we tend to use single inverted commas. American English tends to use double inverted commas, but I prefer single because obviously, as I've just explained, we use double to indicate direct speech. So when we are copying what someone has said, we might be writing an essay on Of Mice and Men, for example, and we might be taking a quote out of that text and we might be explaining that quote. We need to use single inverted commas to indicate that we are actually lifting that text and using it within our essay, and it's not our words that we're using, it's somebody else's. So here we've got two quotes. We've got an embedded quote in the first example, and an embedded quote is where we use the words in the quote that we've chosen to actually complete our sentence. So we've got, when questioned, the principal acknowledged that his school had failed to achieve its targets despite their best efforts. So we've used the quote, the words from the quote, to complete our sentence. Now if you take a look, you can see some square brackets around the word there in that quote as well. And we can use square brackets to insert a word of ours in order to make the sentence make sense. Now it might be that the principal said, we failed to achieve our targets, okay? We failed to achieve its targets despite our best efforts. Now that wouldn't make sense if the word our was there. So instead we've inserted the word there, and because it's not directly copied or quoted from that principle, we need to put square brackets around that word to show that that's not part of the quote. Below we've got a quote from Of Mice and Men, and here we haven't got so much of an embedded quote, but we've used the sentence opener, George said, and then we've put the quote after that. So George said, comma, you never ought to drink water when it ain't running, Lenny. Okay, and we've used single inverted commas there to explain to the reader that we are copying that from the text. Now, to stop confusion, sometimes we need to use both single and double inverted commas when we're quoting somebody. And that's often when you are quoting what somebody said, and in their conversation they are talking about what somebody else has said, so it can get a little bit confusing. So in that case, if we are consistently using single inverted commas to quote throughout our text, then we use double inverted commas within that quote. Now, if you're consistently using double inverted commas throughout your text, then you would use single inverted commas within your quote. So here we've got the piece of writing, David Cameron confirmed that the law will come into force next year despite some opposition MPs describing it as a flawed piece of legislation. So we've got David Cameron's words there, the law will come into force, so those are his words, but then he's described in what he's said that some MPs have said that the legislation is flawed. So where he is quoting other MPs and what they've said, we've had to use double inverted commas to show that that's somebody else's words, not David Cameron's. So, like I said, if you are consistently using single inverted commas through your text, then you need to use double inside your quote there. And finally, we can also use inverted commas to informally indicate that a word or a phrase within what we're writing is being ridiculed, or it's ironic or non-standard. Now, this is very informal practice, and we want to keep this practice to the bare minimum, because essentially we want our reader to believe what we are saying. Now, if we use these, what we call scare quotes, all the time, then our reader would probably begin to think, well, is that writer really thinking what they've said? So why are they writing those words when they don't believe in them? So writers often use these scare quotes to distance themselves from that particular opinion. So they actually disagree with that opinion. But like I said, it's very informal, so we don't want to use them all the time. But this example here indicates how we can use scare quotes. So the simple sentence, Wayne Rooney earns £300,000 per week, exclamation mark. Now, the word earns is in inverted commas, and therefore the writer is using those to indicate that they don't agree that he actually earns that money per week. So maybe they feel that actually he doesn't really work very hard for that money every week. So we can use inverted commas to show that we're being ironic, or that sometimes a word is non-standard, or that we're ridiculing what it says. So like I said, you don't use them that often, but they can be used to indicate those things. So that's inverted commas. Like I said, you can use single or double inverted commas, and they're also known as speech marks, quotation marks, or scare quotes, depending on how you use them. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Lots of videos on punctuation, grammar and spelling, and also if you're following the AQA, GCSE English or English language exams, then there's loads of videos on my channel for each of the questions on that exam. Thanks for listening today.